Welcome back, everybody. I am the Jimmer. This is King of the Hill. This is going to be the sort of introduction episode. I know the tournament's already underway, but as this is going to be going on for at least a couple months, I'm going to do an overview of the rules and kind of have a video of the more finer points, the things that are a little bit harder to describe in a few paragraphs of text, and just kind of get everybody hyped for the season. I already have 7 or 8 entries, so the actual fights will start very soon here, hopefully within a day or two of this video getting going up. Right now you're looking at the No Regrets. This was my entry for Menti's latest Battleship tournament that unfortunately was canceled. Put a lot of time into this damn thing, and I think it turned out really nice. Like, this is probably the best looking ship I've ever been able to build, and I wanted somebody to see it. I know most of my stuff usually doesn't look all that fantastic, but I think this one turned out good, and I want to at least show it off a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. Basically, I'm just going to go through all the rules and explain them, maybe explain a little bit of reasoning if I have to, and hopefully that clears up any confusion. And it always seems like there's some people that miss some of the rules, or plain just don't read the rules. So in case you are unable to read, here are all the rules and how to follow them. Starting off with your blueprint has to be under 100k max materials. So when you go in to load your blueprint here, I'm going to be looking at this number, and that's got to be less than 100k, with the caveat or the exception that if you build a displacement hull ship, so something like this, where the hull is under the water, and if you look at the center of mass right there, should be pretty close to the water. You can't have, I mean, I could easily put a bunch of propellers or hydrofoils on the bottom of this and lift it up out of the water, in which case it's no longer a displacement hull. It is a skimmer, and that doesn't count. So I'm going to look at if your center of mass is pretty close to the water, you'll get an extra 10k material, so your blueprint can be 110k as opposed to the 100k standard. And also, just going along with that, if you have more than one entry, or more than one vehicle, I guess I should say, then your flagship, your biggest vehicle, has to be at least 80k materials. Basically, I just don't want entries that are like 100 tiny little ships. I mean, it's not a bad strategy, and it's sort of interesting, but it just, when you're trying to watch it, it's just impossible to tell what's really going on. It's been allowed in past tournaments, and people really didn't like it. Not that it was really unfair or anything, but it just, like, when you watch the videos, it's not, you can't tell what's going on. So you can have up to 4 sub vehicles, so you can have your main vehicle and then 4 other sub vehicles, and they can be whatever you want, but they have to follow all of the other rules, the same as your flagship. And also, kamikaze entries are banned. So if your sub vehicles are designed to just sort of fly into the opponent and die, that is not allowed. Doesn't matter what method you're doing, if you've got nukes or rams or whatever, if they aren't able to survive like the first impact, then they are banned. And also make sure you put everything in one blueprint. Use a spawn stick if you have to. I have a tutorial on how to build a spawn stick up on my channel, and you can also find it in the tournament section of the official forums. And the other final limitation on your blueprint is it must be able to destroy itself in a mirror match. So, I mean, the matches are going to be only 5 minutes, potentially 5.5 minutes if it's really close. So you don't have to get complete destruction, but they have to be able to do some damage to each other. I don't want, like, super... It's very easy in From the Depths to make things that are just simply impossible to hit, and when that happens, the battles just turn into 2 vehicles flying around for 5 minutes, nobody landing a single shot, and it's incredibly boring to watch. So that is not going to be allowed. I'm going to be a little bit lenient. You don't have to, I guess I should probably reword that. You don't have to completely destroy yourself, but you have to be able to get significant damage. So basically, I'm gonna use the tournament designer to do this, but I'll spawn in another entry, let them fight, and as long as they're able to do damage to each other, then I will allow it. So in this case, we'll spawn in another no regrets, and I mean, this is basically what I'm going to do. I'm just going to spawn 2 in, and you can see right away they are having no problems landing hits on each other. These are big, slow, cram-firing vehicles. That's to be expected. Oh man, it's going to be really loud. Hopefully it doesn't drown out my audio too much. But that is a rule in there. And yeah, we just don't want, I don't want super evasive stuff or stuff that's just entirely focused on defense. If you want to be really evasive, you better put tons of offense on there and be able to do significant damage. Alright, I think that basically covers that. Moving on to movement. No warp drives. Just they kind of break the game. I just don't like warp drives. I mean, it's neat for campaign or whatever. You're playing single player, do whatever you want. But in the tournament, it's too easy to make stuff that just warps all over the place, or warps right before missile strikes or attacks or whatever. And I don't want to see that, or even designs that warp inside of their opponent and kind of break the game that way. Just too many ways to exploit. Movement must be smooth, no glitch switching. This one is another one that is sort of hard to explain. Basically, I'm not worried if your entry is sort of evasive or turns back and forth, you know, on the order of like a few seconds. But here, let's bring in something that glitch twitches. Probably should have got this ready in advance, but you know, low budget and all that. Did the dick move? No, that one was smooth. It was the it was Slim Pickens. I know it was a Slim Pickens. Yeah, red shifted barracuda. This is the one that oh god. The eye cancer. Maybe it needs an opponent in to actually do it. Oh, it's not underwater. Alright, you see this? How it's just like spasming all over the place. That is not allowed. It really messes with the aim on weapons, and it just looks god awful. So if your entry does this, banned with the ban hammer hard. Cannot stand that. Yeah, you can see it just like hopping back and forth and twitching all over the place. Not allowed. Let's see if I can get something that is... I don't remember what this one was like. Something that is a little bit twitchy, but not too bad to kind of... I want to like kind of give you like... Because everything in From the Depths kind of suffers from the twitchiness a little bit. But yeah, you can see this is like, it's got a little bit of twitchiness, just kind of due to the frame rates, but it's not twitching all over the place. I mean, that little bit of like twitch there is impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It's extremely difficult to get rid of. Let's load in another enemy so you can see it one more time. Like that little bit, see how it's just kind of like wobbling around. Not worried about that. I'm worried about the glitchy nature, as you saw in the red shifted barracuda. Oh man, this is gonna be a long video. Alright, so, and then, okay, and this is the other one that needs quite a bit of explanation. So, deaded blades have to have an unobstructed view to the outside of the vehicle. So, for this one, it's extremely difficult. Basically, if your deaded blades look like they could work in real life, like there's an intake and an outlet for the blades, I'll allow it. But you can't have your blades entirely inside the block. And I am one of the biggest offenders of this, and I kind of gimped myself when I started to build my entry because I'm so used to using this exploit, if you can call it that. Let's see, speedy, not yet another speedy Venus. Oh yeah, that's this is another thing I'll cover. You can't I know it's my entry, but you can no longer build stuff like this. No like weird lattices and that sort of thing. Has to be some kind of vehicle. This is not allowed. We'll cover that in the future, but this is just a really good opportunity to explain what I mean when I say it has to be a vehicle, cannot be a physics abomination. This would be banned. And I completely lost the Speedy Venus. Alright, and let's give this pause so it's a little easier to see. A little bit of lag, I don't know what that's about. Oh, does this one not actually use internal data blades? Huh, I actually don't think I used them on this. Alright. Well, at least we got to see the other exploit there that I want to talk about. This one, actually I think this one is a really, yeah, this is the perfect example for what I'm trying to get at. So something like this, where you can see there's a hole in the center with the data blades in it, and I mean there is some blocking of the data blades for the like support structure, but I mean if I look at this and you can go all the way through, so potentially this could actually work, you know, in real life, so that's allowed. This actually also has internal ones if I recall correctly. Yeah, and you can see where those are on the outside. Oh man, I was actually pretty good about not using data blades on this. So not a good example of what not to do, but a good example of what to do. If you want to use data blades, they have to be somewhat realistic, where the air could go all the way through, basically. And I'll be a little bit lenient if it looks good, but if it's obvious that you're just doing something cheaty to try and get your data blades protected from damage while technically staying in the rules, I'm gonna ban it anyway. But let's move on to here. Let's get something going on in the background so it's not just me talking. Here, actually, this is a good example. Oh, not what I was trying to do. Nope. And I know, yeah, here we go. So, like these data blades here, you can see they are completely inside the vehicle. No way they should actually work, but due to the way, from the physics works, these provide the same amount of thrust as if they were actually pushing air. So this is what I don't want to see. I've allowed it in the past, and it's really not that big an issue, but data blades are extremely powerful right now, and I just want to make them a little bit more balanced with the other forms of propulsion. basically make them exposed to the outside and able to be damaged. Just adds some a little bonus to people who are using the other forms of propulsion, and makes it a little harder to make invulnerable high-speed boxes of doom. Alright, and so moving on to weapons, particle accelerator cannons are banned, so anything out of here, no bueno, cannot use. They just, they're not, I don't think they're as overpowered as they used to be, but the issue is that they can go through, there's no defense from a particle accelerator cannon, so in a tournament where you don't know who you're going to be facing, I mean, it makes sense to build something that can damage everything else at least a little bit, and it gets really boring when all the entries are particle accelerator cannons. So in order to encourage, you know, missiles and rams and everything else, crams, advanced cannons, particle accelerator cannons are banned. Grav ram rounds are banned. They can be exploited to do all sorts of annoying stuff. You can completely disable an opponent, prevent them from doing anything. You can knock them out of range. You can use them to launch yourself potentially really fast. Proximity fuses are banned, so I guess I'll go to the actual tab. So basically the proximity fuses, so that shell, that's rear is the graviton ram, these are banned. And then any where's proximity fuses? Proximity fuses right now they're bugged, where you can basically get through shields. They'll go straight through shields if you set them up right, and it's overpowered. So those are banned. Any of the other fuses, timed, altitude, pen depth, any of that is fine. And then another thing to keep in mind with advanced cannons is to keep your rate of fire reasonable. I think there's a particle limit of, like, you can have like 2,000 projectile. I don't remember the exact number, but it's fairly high. But it's possible to spam so many shells that the game starts despawning shells before they even land. So an entry that's designed to do that can completely remove the possibility of being shot by enemy APS cannons, and it's kind of, I don't like it anyway. I don't like the huge spam of shots strategy. It makes the game lag. It doesn't look that great, and it could potentially break it, so that is bad. If you're worried about it, spawn 2 of your entries in against each other and just watch the shells, see if any of them are despawning before they make it to their target, and if that's happening, your entry's going to get banned. Rams can only be placed on the flagship, so so you can't build a ramming craft or add rams to your general purpose craft and try and take out the enemy, but it's possible to build really fast sub vehicles that just teleport, or nearly teleport across the map and shred, almost like a kamikaze, but if they don't die, I guess it's not technically a kamikaze. So for that reason, rams can only be placed on your flagship. And oh yeah, one other thing. Okay, so let's bring in another example. So here you go. So spin blocks. If you have a spin block or a turret with rams on it, then it has to fit inside a 13 by 13 by 13 box. So basically, your ram can't be longer than 13 meters. And here, let me give this a pause so you can kind of see what's going on here. So you can't build something like this where the rams are really long, and I mean, this is actually somewhat reserved. I could build these, a kilometer long and then as soon as the match starts, it just like smacks your enemy and takes it out. So it's kind of to cut down on that. I mean, I guess 13 meters is a little bit restrictive, but the rams on spin blocks can be extremely powerful, especially on a really fast craft. So I just wanted to allow the strategy because it's interesting, but keep it reasonable. And here, let's spawn in a Marauder, just to, I'm sure you know what's gonna happen, but it's fun to watch. I'll probably lose to the Marauder. So yeah, let's see. Rams can only place on ships, and then okay, so we'll move on to utility. There's no repair testicles. Just can't. They're too overpowered. They repair way too fast, and it's boring. You can use as many repair bots as you want. So if you want lots of repairs, you got to pay the price for it. Shields cannot be more than 3 layers thick. Yeah, you can see just how devastating a ram attack can be. That was like a grazing shot, but still did a ton of damage. Oh yeah, two damage from that. And that's, I don't know, that entry's kind of crappy, but I think it was even Slim Pickens that made a ram entry similar to that for season 3, or is this what season are we? Yeah, I think we're, yeah. Wait, no, I don't know. The last propane, where it was a bit broken. I mean, it was a good entry. I don't want to rip on too much. I'm totally in the rules, but that's why it's gone for this season. And then okay, so for the shields thing, do I have a good? Mr. Nibbles will be a good. Oh, this is the one without shields. Too many things named test. Here we go. So for the shields, you can't have more than 3 layers. So that's a little bit ambiguous. Basically, the idea is that it's possible to place the shields in such a way where you can have like 7, 8, 9, 10 layers of low-powered shields that cost very little engine power to run and block basically all projectile attacks. And it's really overpowered. And I prefer that projectiles have a chance to land. Otherwise, we get to the same position where APS and Cram cannons are pointless to use. So it's basically you're using lasers. And that's it. And now with the laser shields, I guess that could potentially be blocked too. So you're down to potentially making invulnerable craft, which I do not want. So the idea is you can have up to 3 layers. And when I'm looking at the layers, it's like if it coming from any direction. So if I have 3 layers of shielding here, I can also have 3 layers of shielding on this side. And if there is a small bit of overlap on the corner, I'm not going to worry about that. But basically, any way a shell comes in, it shouldn't have to go through more than 3 shields to land. So this allows you to have you can have a long range, what's it called? The disrupt shield that will trigger inertial fuses, and then a reflect shield close to the skin, which will block fragments, and then a laser absorb shield on like the inside that stops laser attacks. So you can have good shield defenses, but they're going to cost you engine power. And they're going to they're not going to be 100% effective. So you're going to also have to depend on either maneuverability to avoid strikes or solid hull design to absorb the percentage that get through. And I think that covers that. I hope that, yeah, let's load in one more vehicle, and just to take a look at, so we have like a more real world example. And all these shields, it's all like stuff from Mente's tournament. He always bans shields. Alright, here we go. This is a good example. Oh, it's going to be hard to see, but you can see I have like shields all over the front of this. And if you watch the bunker assault videos, you can see that these shields made it nearly invulnerable to shells, even a lot of APS shells. So you can see a situation here, the shell is going to come in here. I know it's going to pick up crappy in the video. Comes in here, has to pass through this shield, and then I guess it's coming in like this way, passes through this first shield, then this shield, and then there's another shield here that it has to pass through before getting to the hulls. And then it comes in this way, this shield, this shield, this shield, and then this one as well. So there's shields all over the place, and prevent shells from getting through. Yeah, so that is sort of what I am looking to not have. You don't want to have shells going through more than 3 layers of shielding to get to their target. And it's from basically any angle. I mean, I'll allow like a little bit of like overlap on the corners, but from any angle that the shells are coming through, they can't go through more than 3 shields. I think that more than covers it. Let's keep moving on. Spin blocks. Alright, let's go on. Okay, so spin blocks, you can't use them. They can be used to kind of break mechanics in lots of ways. So basically you can't use them to do anything where if I remove the spin block and place the object there, it wouldn't work on its own. So just for example, I can place a on the turret. I can place a shield here and another one right here. And see right here, it won't, you can't project shields through another shield. So it's giving me an error saying, hey, you can't do that. But glitched, I think. I don't know, it's ignore that part. That was just a glitch that happens sometimes. But if I do a spin block or even a turret, I place this here, and there you go. You can see I have one shield projecting through another shield by using the spin block. So that would not be allowed. That is what I'm talking about when I say you can't use the spin block to do something that wouldn't be allowed if the spin block wasn't there. Another example is, I know detection isn't where is it? Okay, detection equipment. You can use it to detect through the vehicle hull. So if I put this here, it's obviously facing straight into that block right there. But because it's on a spin block, the AI doesn't care, and it's like, nope, I can see everything. There's nothing in the way. So that's another example. And then there's also, you can, the other issue with spin blocks is propulsion. Let's see if I can get. So I put this here, and this is providing, you can see, providing thrust, even though it is pushing right into the hull. So it shouldn't be providing thrust, and if the spin block wasn't there, it would provide 0 thrust, but spin block can be used to overcome that. That is banned. And the last thing I want to talk about with spin blocks is they can be used to avoid drag. And some of that is just like unavoidable. Like in this case, like this turret, the top part of the turret here, this is the turret piece, is not contributing to the drag of the vehicle. But there's really no way to get around that. If I want the turret sticking up out of the vehicle, it has to do that to function. But it's also kind of defeating drag that way. So that obviously has to be allowed. But if you're building large chunks of your vehicle out of spin blocks to avoid getting drag, then that's going to be disallowed. Here, let's have a perfect example of that. Let me find my E2. Yeah, right. even named it drag cheese, because that's exactly what it is. So this looks like, you know, one solid vehicle, and was actually constructed as one solid. These wings were part of the hull, and then I chopped them off and put them on. You can see most of this vehicle is actually spin blocks. There's spin blocks here on the side, full of wing pieces, and you can even have propulsion or whatever in there. And so this has very little drag, even though it is a really large vehicle. You can use that to overcome drag. You can use it to build shields, and any of that is banned. I mean, I'll obviously allow a little bit of leeway for that thing's really loud. Allow a little bit of leeway because you can't avoid a little bit of drag cheesing, but if it's obvious that you're using spin blocks to purely avoid the drag mechanic, then that's going to be banned. Alright, and the final thing, I guess, with spin blocks is no clipping. You can use spin blocks to sort of build into, you can put multiple blocks in the same space. Kind of goes along with the everything else I've been talking about with spin blocks, but just don't do that. Don't use spin blocks to put more than one block inside of a space. And then, okay, finally, moving on, let's get something going on here. So we have resources. There's unlimited ammo and fuel capacity. You can put as many blocks in your vehicle as you like for resources. Yeah, this is also kind of loud, but oh, there we go. Material storage. You don't have to build any of these on your vehicle. The storage will all be centralized resources. It's actually a good idea to put one small material storage block somewhere, as that will allow your avatar to put resources in the vehicle while you're playing in the default vanilla designer. You don't have to do that, but I always throw one of these guys on there. It's only 2 resources, and it helps out a lot in testing. You can have as many ammo processors as you want. These converts materials into ammunition. You can use as many of those as you want, and each entry will start with 5k materials to build with, or to be used for repairs, ammo refining, or steam engines. So 5k for repairs, ammo, and all that. That's handled by the tournament mod, and it's difficult to test in the default designer, so I recommend getting Wootness's mod and installing it and doing some testing in there. AI settings, absolutely no Lua blocks. You can't use the missile Lua or the I think it's in here. You can't use this guy either. Lua can do stuff that is it just ends up being really overpowered. I mean, you can do stuff in Lua that would be nice to allow, but I can't police everything. I don't want to have to look through everybody's code all the time, so it's easier to just ban Lua and not worry about it. Max altitude is 350 meters. That is not necessarily in your AI settings. It's something you'll have to tweak your AI settings to force your vehicle to stay within the altitude restrictions. I mean, you can tell your AI you don't want to go above 300 meters, and sometimes it will still do it. So make sure you test and be sure that your vehicle doesn't get any higher than it's supposed to. And then similarly, the minimum altitude is 50 meters. That is going to be where the ocean floor is at. So if you're down that low, you're going to be hitting the bottom of the ocean anyway. Don't want to do that. Max range of 1.5 kilometers. Once again, this is something you're going to want to test in the tournament mod, Wootness's tournament mod. There's links to that all over the place. Check that out if you haven't already. And basically anything that goes outside of those restrictions is going to pick up disqualification time. You have 20 seconds to get back into range, or you get disqualified, and that timer does not reset. So make sure you're staying nice and close. The reason for this, I want close battle, like close range battles, so that everybody watching can kind of see what's happening. If I don't put those restrictions in, we end up with two ships, half the map away from each other, taking pot shots, and neither one of them landing. It's incredibly boring to watch. I want to see close-in fights. It's somewhat of an artificial restriction, but that's just the way it is. Detection equipment is not required. I'm going to go, I have been leaving the detection at 99%. I mean, detection does add something to the game, but it's just really, I don't know, the way it's implemented right now, I don't really like it. It's you can lose you lose one detection part, and then you're no longer able to fire on the target, and you're pretty much out of the match because you lost a one stray shot that you couldn't defend from. So it's easier just to set that at 99 and just say don't worry about detection, focus on the other parts of your vehicle. Exploits, kind of went over most of this stuff already. Don't clip with spin blocks. Don't do blueprint editing. You can, as we saw from the God, it's so loud. As we saw in the Sploitement that recently ran, you can open up your blueprints in a text editor like Notepad, change values around, and basically cheat the game. It's low-level hacking, and if I catch you doing that, you're never going to be in one of my tournaments again. Just don't cheat. Don't be a scumlord. Nobody likes that. You're not winning because you're good. You're winning because you cheated. And then another one is if you're unsure of what you're doing, then probably if you're unsure what you're doing is cheaty, it probably is, and you should scale it back. And if you're ever unsure you're doing something, you're not sure if it's against the rules or not, ideally post a reply in the tournament thread so that everybody can see what you're asking about and see if it applies to them. If you're doing something you don't want to give away sort of your secret weapon or how you're doing something, you can send me a private message and I'll take a look at it. Preferably send me screenshots so I know exactly what I'm looking at and can just look at it and say, okay, that's okay, or no, that's not, or, you know, get rid of this little part and I'll allow it. Moving right along into aesthetics, does not have to be realistic or pretty. So this floating cube right here, perfectly alright in my book. I don't mind if you just build a cube like this. It's not going to get any aesthetics points, which we'll get into later, but I'm fine with it. Basically, I don't want the... it has to be a vehicle of some kind. It can't be a physics abomination. So, and I'll expand that. So if you're building the fortress, you can have like a building-looking fortress, but you can't have anything just like where it's not, obviously not a vehicle that you would see, vehicle or building you would see in some kind of like fantasy or sci-fi or whatever universe. The lattice I showed earlier, that I said is a good example. Don't build stuff like that. It confuses the AI. Most of the shots go through it, and it's just really cheesy, and you can break the game with that. So none of that stuff. Just try and keep it. I mean, like I said, you don't have to make it pretty, but make sure it's at least a vehicle of some kind. And then along with that, the aesthetics are going to factor into, after the tournament is over, I get sick of running it, or it wears down, people start sending in entries. I'm going to go through, and any entries that were able to win 3 matches will get, was it 3 or 4? I can't remember. Moves. I should probably double check that so I'm not giving you bad information. I have it in the tournament format. Okay, yeah, 4 wins. So any entry that gets 4 wins moved into the Hall of Fame. And then the best looking entries out of the Hall of Fame are the most interesting as well. This is going to kind of be, honestly, it's going to come down to the ones I like the best. So definitely subjective at that point. But if you make it look nice, you're much more likely to get picked for the King of Kings. I'm going to pick 8 entries. We're going to have a just regular bracket, and they're all going to fight. And the winner of that is the overall winner of the tournament. There might be a prize, there might not. We'll see how it goes. Onward to regulations. Probably I think this is the time where we load in Wootness's tournament creator. This is designed by Wootness. All hail Wootness. Give him all of the woots. Fantastic tool. I'm pretty sure I've got a instruction guide up on it on my channel, and there's links to it all over the place. Get this, install it, and even if you don't play in the tournaments, it is fantastic for testing your own designs. This is how I run all my tournaments. So get this, and then these are going to be the settings I'm going to run with. Also going to be using my all water map. I guess we can load that in as well for just for completeness. Oops. This is available on the Steam Workshop. There's links to it in the thread, and it's just, there's nothing. It's just all water, and that's it. And so let's do this. These are going to be the settings I'm going to use. That doesn't matter. Altitude 50, maximum altitude 350. Yeah, 350. Max distance 1500. Penalty time, much stiffer penalty time. Make sure you're staying in bounds. Shorter matches. So I'm not going to allow too much penalty time. Max design cost doesn't affect anything. Starting material is 5K. Damage materials is off, and standard rules. So this is how it's going to be set up right here. If you want to do testing on your entry, these are the settings I'm going to use. And then you want to This is, I'm pretty sure, do I have how it's going to be spawned in? Do I say that in here? So yeah, I'm going to spawn them. Try and use a spawn stick if you need anything other than facing and C. So if it's an airborne vehicle, use a spawn stick to lift it up. If it's a submarine, use a spawn stick to put it underwater. You got multiple vehicles, use a spawn stick to organize them how you want them to be. And so you get it all set up, you hit start. And the battle takes place. Victory conditions. Winners decided for percent health remaining. You can see in the top left, top right corner are the it's like the information for each team. We'll look at the overall health after 5 minutes, and that's going to decide who wins. Unless, of course, you are able to destroy your opponent or they disqualify themselves. One with the most health wins the battle. If after 5 minutes it's really close, within a couple percent, I'll allow it to go for another minute, just so we're 100% sure that the winner deserves the win. Once again, do not go out of bounds. Out of bounds for more than 20 seconds will be a loss. Oh, sorry. And then the tournament format, it's going to be ongoing. So I'm just going to keep accepting entries and adding them to the queue. I'm going to have a list. Your entry will fight in the order that it's received. So if you send me something, it's going to be in the queue for a while until it makes its way to the top. I'm going to keep adding entries to the bottom. Top of the queue gets picked to fight, gets matched up with someone else who has not fought yet. So yeah, new entries, when I'm deciding who fights for that episode, new entries are going to go first, so that we get to see all the new stuff brought in, not sitting in the queue too long. And then after that, it's going to go to entries that have a similar record. So if we have one entry that has, one loss, it's going to face another entry that has one loss. So you're not going to, hopefully you're not going to lose by getting, paired up against two really strong designs and knocked out. And similarly, in order to get your 4 wins, that fourth win is going to be up against another entry that has 3 wins. So you're both going to have to be really good. So hopefully that gives weaker entries a chance to have good battles, and also make sure that stronger entries are facing stronger opposition. And getting to be that king of the hill is going to be very difficult. After you lose twice, you're retired from the tournament. I will allow entries that have been retired to be rebuilt and sent in, but they have to be significantly reworked. If you just change a couple AI settings, maybe change a couple shells, I'm not gonna let you run again. It just takes time away from people who are spending a lot of time on their entries. If you want to resubmit a design that has been knocked off the hill, make sure you're putting in some good changes, and adjusting the way that you lost. I want to see that I lost because I didn't have enough shields. I want to see more shields, or something similar like that. Lost because my AI got sniped. I want to see duplicate AIs, so that I don't like running entries a second time when it's obvious that nothing has been changed and the result is exactly the same. And similarly, after you win four times, 4 wins, you are a king. You have proven yourself worthy, and you take your place at the top of the hill. And those entries cannot be resubmitted. I don't want someone just dominating with the same design over and over again. And obviously for that doesn't really make sense for the King of Kings tournament at the end. We want all the unique entries in that. Going along with that, at the end of the tournament, I'll take the 8 entries, selecting the King of Kings mini tournament, and that's going to determine the overall winner. Once again, I'll probably end up doing some kind of prize for that, depending on how broke I am at the time, if I can afford it. But yeah, hopefully there's a prize for that. I'm pretty sure there will be. And then, so I'm hoping everybody that watches this is excited for the tournament and wants to see how well they can do. Even if you know you're not gonna win, it's still fun to take part. And hopefully I've set up the matches in a way that you'll be matched with people of more similar skill levels for your fights. And in the queue, you can have 1 entry per person at a time. So if you send me something, and you can go ahead and start working on a new entry if you want, but I won't add it to the queue until your current entry finishes its fights, or at least is no longer, I think maybe more fairly to say, until your entry is no longer in the queue. That way it has to have been in at least 1 episode before you can send me another entry. Just some people are very prolific and build a lot of stuff all the time, and I want to give people that don't have quite as much free time a chance to get their entries seen as well. So one entry per person at a time. Oh yeah, going along, you can resubmit a new entry after your entry has completed a battle. So if you lose or you make it to the top of the hill, you can send me another entry and I'll add it to the queue. Resubmissions are only allowed for retired entries, and you must make significant modifications. Oh man, I wonder how long this video is. A lot longer than I was planning, but there's a lot of rules to get through. 2.5 printed pages, single space, so I try and keep things as brief as possible. But oh yeah, hit the 5-minute mark on the video. Let's get this restarted. So at least there's something going on while I ramble on here. I feel like I'm doing like legal speak or something. Alright, so submissions. Oh yeah, I guess we're basically through this. So send your submissions to my email address. There, it will be in the official tournament thread. I'm not going to say it here because I don't want to get spam. But please send it as an attachment to my email address. Don't send me a page on Discord or a private message or a link on YouTube. I'll lose it, I won't see it, I'll see it and forget about it later, and then your entry won't get entered. You send it to my email, I can sort my email, search for your entry, and I'll have it right there. It's a lot easier for me. I get a lot of, as these are going on, I get a lot of entries, a lot of resubmissions. It's hard to keep everything straight. So yeah, definitely send it as an attachment to my email. And make sure when you're doing that, put in the title King of the Hill. That's what I'm going to search my email for, King of the Hill, and I'm going to look for emails from the last time I checked. So if you name it something else, if you name it Hi, I'm not going to find it. It's going to get lost in with all the other spam I get. Make sure it's an attachment. I don't like links. I don't like clicking on links to stuff, as I too many damn times, especially in your email, you're getting links that look legit and it's viruses. No thank you. Make sure you're naming your blueprint as, here this is, name it the name of your vehicle space by your name, or underscores or whatever works. I know some people, I think on Linux it doesn't like the spaces in the file names, but name it that. It makes it a lot easier for me. It makes it easier for the people playing back home, because when they see it, it'll be your name, or the vehicle's name by and your name, so everybody that is watching the vehicle knows exactly what it's called and who built it. I don't put any restrictions on names, but shorter names are a little bit better. Really long names overrun the box here, and so it makes it more difficult for people watching to know who's who. And absolutely make sure you reread all of the rules before you submit. Get your vehicle, pay attention to the rules while you're building, and then when you get done building, go through and line by line read through the rules again and make sure what you're sending me follows those rules. If it doesn't follow the rules, it's going to get rejected, and I'm not checking the entries until they make it to the top of the queue. So if you send me something, it doesn't follow the rules, and it gets to be your turn and I check it, I'm going to find it doesn't follow the rules, I'm going to tell you it's rejected, you're going to have to resubmit it with it being fixed, and you're going to resubmit it back to the bottom of the queue. So if you don't reread the rules and make sure that you're following all of them, it could, make you wait a really long time to actually see your vehicle get its battles, and I don't want that. I prefer to just run everything and not have to be nitpicky about the rules. But that really comes down to you. I put a lot of effort and time into making sure the rules are clear and organized and succinct, so that you can just go through, look at them line by line, have them all bullet pointed out, and make sure your entry is doing exactly what the rules say. It'll save you some headache. It saves me a lot of headache of rechecking designs several times to make sure they're following the rules, and it's just better for everybody. And yeah, that's it. I think that is everything I wanted to talk about, and then some. I wonder how long this video is going to end up being. But hopefully you guys are excited for the tournament. Like I said, I've already got 7 or 8 entries, 6, 7, 8 entries, I'm not sure exactly. So I'm going to probably immediately after this take a short break and then start actually doing the battle. So we'll have the first episode soon, and make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the battles. I don't really do much else besides the tournament that I'm working on, so you won't get spammed with videos you're not interested in. Obviously, if you watched this far, you're definitely interested in From the Depths tournaments. So give me that subscription, give me that thumbs up on the video, and we'll see you guys next time.